All right, looks like we are in business. All right, welcome everyone. Again, it is great to see you, even though I can't really see your faces right now. I know you're out there. Thank you for being here tonight on a Friday. I know I'm sure you've got a lot of things to do on a Friday, like relax after a long week of work. So appreciate you starting the weekend with us here. So we are gonna start by revisiting what we introduced you all to last week, which is our mood meter. As a reminder, we talked about our new social emotional learning program, Ruler, which is all about teaching. Ooh, iPhone, I see you. If you could please refrain from drawing on the screen, that'd be super helpful. Thank you so much. But as you learned last week, Ruler is our new social emotional program, really teaching students how to recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate their emotions. And so we just want to start today by checking in with ourselves. One thing I learned in reading and learning about this program is just the simple act of checking in with yourself and identifying how you're feeling in the moment is a regulation strategy. Just being able to name what you're feeling creates some distance and some space between you and the emotion that can help, particularly if you're feeling in the red or the blue. So just wanted to give a moment, if everybody could just put in the chat, how are you feeling on this Friday? And Leilani Tonko, I see that you raised your hand. If you want to come off mute and tell us how you're feeling, you are welcome to.
Well, it's not Leilani, it's the mom.
Ah, hello.
I'm feeling relaxed. I didn't have to work today. I'm relaxed and but a little I'm trying to see what's the word I could use. No, I'm not in the red or anything like that. I'm relaxing, like a little, like, I just want to know how the whole blended and remote are going to interact. So I'm just like, I'm not sure which word covers how that feeling is.
I'm with you. This is my growing edge, is learning to figure out what exactly is this thing I'm feeling right now and where does it fall into that. So I totally understand. And thank you for sharing.
Hi, I'd like to talk. It's Amy, Donalisa's mom.
Hi, welcome. How you feeling? I'm good.
I'm feeling great. However, I'm very concerned in regards to, basically I was having a conversation because I like to talk to the teachers, at least Friday, like to get a recap on the kids. So I have a challenging time with my daughter showing her forehead only on the screen. I just think I don't know, like something that I think should be implemented is that during advisory, you guys go over with the students, listen, we have to see the name Girls Prep up, or you get merit points taken away. Remember how you guys take merit points? I don't know if you guys are doing that now, but like, you know, just so that it can be more engaged, no cell phones, like, you know, do not mute your screen, like give them a little, threaten their asses, you know, like, like, because it's like
lay the law down from the beginning.
Basically, from the beginning of the day, because I'm at work, and I you know, I'm not with her, so it's just like, I think if it's embedded in them, like, hey, we have your mother's number, your parents' number, we will not hesitate to use it. So either you act right now, or that's it, it's over, you know, because you know, I've seen the screen where, you know, my nephew has to send me a picture, like sneak behind her. He sent me a picture. All I saw is my daughter's forehead and eyebrows and up and the ceiling. So that should be implemented in the beginning of the day. Sit up, button your collar. Let's see girls prepping up. It has to be your whole face. I know some girls are nervous, are like shy, but like, it's better for them to feel a sense of like, like I have to be in school even though I'm at home. I am in school. I don't know. I just feel like it'll make them focus more. So I saw some kids laying down. I saw some kids with some ceiling, like my daughter. I just don't think that's in school, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They're not going to slouch and lay on the table or lay in bed. But yeah, I don't know, just something that, so that they're getting the attention, the teachers are getting their attention. They're actually focused, working, doing what they have to do. And yeah, I don't know, just something I think that should be implemented. Embedded from the beginning of the day. You're supposed to sit like this is how you're supposed to look, and that's it. Okay, that's it. Sorry.
No, we appreciate it. It sounds like you are feeling very motivated right now. Not that
Yes, I am.
feelings, but I appreciate that energy. I know that the grade team leaders on the call also appreciate that energy, because we are a work in progress together and making this school as consistent and structured and supportive as possible, because we know that you as parents are trying to balance a lot of things. Even if you're in the home, you're balancing a lot of things, and instilling that responsibility as one of our core values in our scholars and reminding them of those consistent expectations is definitely something we're in alignment with. And so I appreciate you sharing that feedback. And
yeah, and again, I know
can share that with their teams.
So sorry. I know, again, many parents may not agree with me, but I just think it's getting them prepared for the real world. Because as much as I don't want to go to work every day, as much as I don't want to do a lot of things every day, I have to do it. As long as I don't want to listen to my, I don't want to listen to my boss every day, but I have to, there's things that just the real world. Like for the kids to be laying and doing all that stuff, like, I don't know. I don't think it's right for their learning and the teachers learning. But again, not everybody's going to agree with me, but it's okay. I agree with myself. Bye, guys.
Principal Strong, can I say something about that as well?
Sure. Who am I speaking with?
Ashley Thompson, Danielle's mother.
Oh, hi. Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Actually, I missed the chat and chew last week, and I really wanted to bring something up because my daughter lives between two households. And I found out that my daughter actually will be in class, but not in class. That she and a couple of her friends are actually in between screens on Roblox, on websites, this website called Discord, which is very inappropriate for children. And I've had to actually address this with her and her father because, class time is class time, and I don't understand how she wasn't, hey, get your attention back. I think that's a very big problem. And I also think that because the kids are home right now, I think that the school needs to also talk to them about the dangers of being on the internet, because they are on the internet a lot right now. And seeing my daughter on a website that was not okay, that scared the life out of me.
No, absolutely.
And, it got me thinking, like, what else are the kids being exposed to? Because, parents aren't always there to watch. And I think that it should be like a mandatory conversation, like, don't put yourself out there. Don't be putting girls prep out there. Don't be wearing your shirts on camera or anything like that in other chat rooms or anything.
Absolutely. I appreciate you servicing that. I 100% agree. I think that all of us, I'm glad that I didn't have the internet growing up, quite frankly, because there's a world of things that you can get into now that used to not be as easy to access. And so I think that we're taking several steps on our end and definitely want to partner with parents and are open to your feedback as well about other ways that we can do that. Again, to Jonalisa's mom's earlier point, one of the reasons that we want to reinforce consistently those expectations of kids being ready, kids being in uniform, kids being camera on, is so that we can do our best to engage and monitor. Also, we do have programming on our public prep devices that does help us monitor anything potentially inappropriate. But Ms. Thompson, if Danielle's using a public prep laptop, that I would love for you to follow up with me in an email and just let me know a little bit more about those sites specifically, because one thing we're constantly trying to improve is our like cybersecurity and our like parental guards on our public prep devices so that we can make sure students have access to what they need, but also make sure that we are limiting that access and keeping them protected. But I think, again, also, Ms. Thompson, your point about having those open conversations with kids about the dangers of the internet, about protecting themselves and being responsible, again, grounding it in our core values, which we talk to students about all the time, is another piece that's really important. And just internet safety and cyber safety, I think particularly in this remote learning world, is something that we need to continue to do a lot more talking about. And I'm glad that we are, and we'll talk a little more about our schedule for hybrid and remote learning. We're going to continue to have additional time throughout the day for Sister Circle and advisory. And so the more feedback, and if anybody else has ideas that you want to drop in the chat, we're going to have another space for Q&A at the end where we can surface additional concerns. We'd love to get feedback on topics you want us to cover in advisory, especially if you're seeing things at home that we're not seeing. And then other ways that we can partner with you to set that tone of remote school and of those expectations, because I think we're all aligned in that we want to see core values being demonstrated by students, whether we're in the building or at home. So I really appreciate everyone sharing that feedback right off the bat. That's why these times of the week are my favorite, because we get better as we hear from you. So again, drop other ideas in the chat if you have them, families, around these specific points so that we can come back to them at the end and so that our grade team leaders can capture them to take back to their teams as they talk to teachers.
Yeah, because I'm going to sit in her classroom. If you see me sitting in her class, don't be surprised.
Oh, absolutely. You are welcome in 6th grade anytime.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to sit there with pigtails and everything. I don't care at this point.
Oh my gosh, Danielle's not even in 6th grade anymore. She's in 7th.
No, she's 7th.
I can't, these kiddos are getting too old. It's too much. Awesome. So I realized made a mistake again this week on our agenda. I apparently forgot to update it from the last chat and chew. So what we are going to talk about today, we just had a community builder around our mood meter. We are focusing solely today on reopening updates. So you are going to have some grade level highlights. And then as opposed to focusing on ed tech, we are going to be focusing today solely on our reopening plans so we can get you as much information as possible as we prepare to go into phase 2. Just reminders about our Zoom norms, if we can make sure that we remain muted unless we're sharing out, just to get rid of any background noise. And you are welcome to use the chat feature. Our grade team leaders and Ms. Lopez are on here. They can be responding throughout. We'll also have Q&A at the end. And as Ms. Tanko already demonstrated for us, that raise a hand feature is also super helpful if you need to come off mute to share something. That way we can, since we can't see each other's faces and engage in conversation that way, it lets us know when someone needs to share. We are recording this, as I mentioned, because we want to share it with families who can't be here, but it is primarily going to be the screen of the PowerPoint that's shared, not the faces of the people on the Zoom. All right, grade level highlights. Before I go in, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare to see if I can get this weird wonky box that's on my screen to go away. Grade team leader.
Ms. Strong, hit the
Idea what I can do? Yeah.
you can hit the three dots
Okay.
on your thing, and it should say like remove annotations.
Yeah. Sure.
And then it'll say disable annotations from participants, and then it won't have it again.
Now, I learn every day. And I was following you for a moment, and now I'm lost again. That's all right. We're just gonna try and figure it out.
Thanks, Caleb.
We'll deal with it. Yeah, Kaylin, I could probably let you be the Zoom facilitator because you probably know how to do this better than I do. Nevertheless, we're gonna turn it over to 5th grade grade team leader, Ms. Colgan.
Thank you so much, Ms. Song. I have a lot of joy to share with you all. From Scholar of the Month, which was just announced today, Layla Bermudez has been showing off and showing out in all of her classes since the beginning of the school year. Even though it's virtual and remote, she's been jumping into everything and just really showing those core values, which is amazing. As well as our wonderful math teachers, Ms. Bathier and Ms. Hernandez, who have been chosen by the students as staff of the month for all of their hard work in math class. Yamatar specifically wanted to give them a huge shout out for all the hard work they've been doing and helping the 5th graders learn some complicated math strategies. So major shout out to those 5th grade teachers. As well as Ms. Bathier wants to give a shout out to all the students who have been coming back to class after lunch. 5th grade attendance has been really on point, and even those after lunch classes are being filled up within minutes, which is amazing because we know in the middle of lunch it's easy to lose track of time, but 5th graders are being extremely responsible and jumping straight back in. I also wanted to give a special shout out to EJS, who presented at Unity meeting today. They did a really great presentation. They were the first 5th grade class to go, and it was their first Unity meeting presentation, and they were really excited and worked really hard on it, including some lunch hours and after school. So that was some serious dedication. And shout out to MO Advisory for always coming ready. Miss Galloway, Miss Natalie, Miss Swap love starting their days with you. And then I want to give a shout out to MA specifically for our dance parties at the start of class every day. They have been a huge highlight. We are in one of the last classes of the day, so shaking off all of that morning and after lunch funk with a dance party has been a really great time, especially with all the baby brothers and sisters and cousins who jump in and join us. It's been really sweet, adorable, just amazing. So thank you to the 5th grade and to all of you for keeping the 5th grade so engaged.
Rise with the Guardians. Yeah. What is all over the couch?
Amazing.
Clean up your stuff. It's not.
Ms. Thompson, I think you accidentally came off mute.
No, it's not.
There we go. I got it for her. Okay. Mr. Marr, I'm going to turn it over to you for 6th grade.
Good evening, everyone. I have a few shout outs from some of the math teachers and history teachers and science teachers. So just want to start off by shouting out Layla and Catherine for attending office hours and always participating in class discussions. That's from Mr. Ricarte, our math teacher. Mr. LaRose wants to shout out Nolani and Janae for always attending office hours and participating. Ms. Patrick wants to shout out Layla Sky for being fully engaged in her science lessons. And I wanted to give a big shout out to Alexandria, Janae as well, and Amaya Morale for showing responsibility, coming to office hours, always asking for support when needed, just always messaging me whenever they can if they need any clarifications or just to say hey. So shout out to all of you 6th graders.
Good evening, everybody. These are our 7th grade highlights and shout outs. So we had our 7th and 8th grade Unity meeting. Was it just last week? I don't know. Feels like forever ago. But at that Unity meeting, we got to celebrate Ariana Arce as our Scholar of the Month and Miss DeLuca as our Staff Member of the Month. So if you missed that Unity meeting, you know, yay them. If you were there, yay them for the second time. I wanted to shout out all the students who displayed patience and perseverance as we navigated doing the MAP assessment remotely. I know that that was kind of a stressful experience all around, but so many of the girls really stepped up and displayed a lot of maturity and were so helpful to each other as we were all trying to figure it out together. Shout out to Alyssa Jones and all the other students who are always helping out their friends who are struggling to get to class. Your teachers appreciate your help in getting everybody there. And I just wanted to shout out each of our 7th grade advisories, BDT, for getting that energy and engagement way up from where it was at the beginning of the year. So many girls in that class have really stepped up, and I love hearing your voices more during class. Big shout out to LL for bringing the joy to class every day with the funny backgrounds and the sisterhood. A few of them have made these backgrounds where they took screenshots of their teachers and like photoshopped, you know, little princess hair and outfits on Mr. Melendez, and Mr. Jackson got a perm, and I find it hilarious. So thank you for bringing that joy. And shout out to CK, my advisory, best advisory, for their incredible attendance, punctuality, and work submission. We're having, or oh my gosh, CH this year, my bad. Anyways, we're having like 100% attendance in that class very frequently. And so many students in that class are really on top of their work. So shout out to all of them.
Ms. Lopez, you want to come on and share on behalf of Ms. McCalla, who is in a high school meeting right now?
Yes. So Miss McCalla again is in a high school meeting. A lot of you, that's my car letting me know there's a car next to me. A lot of you may have already met with her. Ms. McCalla is really diligent about meeting with all of her parents one-on-one to get that real tailored experience for all of our students that be in right fit high schools. But she wanted to make sure her team got shouted out. So for being present and engaged, one second, got to be present and engaged on the road. For being present and engaged, sorry, Alana Kemp Taylor, Aliana Thompson, now there's a glare, Isabella Torres, and Brooke Boyd. So shout out to y'all for being present and engaged, one of our norms for interactions as a network. For awesome social justice poems, I heard this has been really great, and we are trying to find a way to post your social justice poems virtually, as well as when we get in school on our bulletin boards. So there's a lot: Dallas, India, Belton, Sade, Leanne, Tyler, Brittany, Autumn, Anna, Lola, Kamora, Katie, Joanna, Amory, Ariana M, Melina, Danila, Sarah, Leilani, Nyla. This is like all of 8th grade. This is incredible. And then we have for giving 100% effort. As you can see, there's also a bunch of great student names up there: Lauren, Michaela A, just to name a few, Emily P. And then presenting this week on Latinx Heritage Month in HRC, Brittany, Dakota, and Jasmine P. Shout out to those advisories and people still celebrating. We are celebrating until October 15th. So if you haven't done so, keep celebrating.
Thanks, Ms. Lopez. And shout out to 8th grade because they continue to hold it down with their attendance, rising to the occasion in their status as seniors. They are really showing up and doing some really great work. So shout out to all of our kiddos who've been rock stars this week. So now we're going to shift gears to talk about our pathway back to campus. I know this is on everyone's mind, and I know that you probably have a lot of questions that you want to get answered. What I'd ask as I go through these slides, please just drop any questions in the chat. I might answer them as I go through, but if I don't answer them as I go through, we will have time for people to just come off mute. I'll answer any of the questions that are in the chat if our grade team leaders haven't already done so, and then we'll have plenty of time for people to come off mute at the end and ask any other specific questions. So we are getting ready to start phase 2, our blended option. This should be a slide that's probably pretty familiar to you by now. if you've been at our family town halls or our family chat and choose. And so this is going to outline some specific details about phase 2, which is our blended option, where we are going to have some students still in remote learning and other students on campus for in-person learning. So a couple of things to know about being ready for the hybrid launch. So again, a lot of the information I'm going to share tonight is specifically for families whose students are coming back to the building during phase 2. It's going to be a lot of specific information about that. So what you need to know about coming back into the building, we want to make sure students are coming with their Chromebooks fully charged to school every day. So a shift this year was that we went to a one-to-one tech device program so that all public prep scholars have or can have a public prep device issued to them. And so what we are going to do is ask that students are bringing that Chromebook to school fully charged every day, and they will be taking that Chromebook home with them at the end of the day every evening. We want to make sure that in the event that we have to shift back into remote learning, that there is no missing a beat. We're going to be integrating technology and Google Classroom even in our in-person learning, so that if students have to be home, whether it's because they don't feel well or because of a temporary closure, that we don't miss a beat with our learning. So we're asking fully charged tech comes with students every day. We are also asking for your support, families, in reinforcing that we've got to follow all safety expectations and protocols for students who are coming in the building. We'll talk more specifically about what that's going to look like, but wearing a mask every day is a requirement for entering the building and for being in the building. The mask has to cover both the student's mouth and their nose. For those of you that are feeling concerned about your students wearing masks, what I will say is, while I don't have mine on right now because I'm alone in my office, we've been back in the building as a leadership team, and we've had teachers back in the building wearing masks for a large majority of our day, and have found that even as adults, we were worried about how that was going to be, and it has not been nearly as challenging as I expected it to be. With that said, we will have designated mask breaks during the day so that students will have time to take it off in a safe and controlled environment, but it is going to be very important that they are coming with a reusable or Clarissa, my love, if you could stop, that'd be great, thank you. They're coming with a reusable mask. If they do not have one, we will be providing masks. We have plenty of PPE on site, but we are asking that you get your scholar a reusable mask to bring every day. We are also in full uniform when we come back. So right now we're just in uniform tops, but when we are back, we are in full uniform. That means our polo, our navy blue bottoms, our black shoes, and really, really important, a navy blue sweater. We're going to talk a little bit more about ventilation and the improvements we've made to the building. But one thing we want to make sure students have is a navy blue sweater, because as it gets a little chillier, we are obviously going to have heat on in the building, but to make sure that air is circulating, we're going to have windows cracked. And so we want to make sure that students are comfortable and warm. If you don't already have a navy sweater, please make sure that you purchase one. We'll drop a link in the chat for a navy fleece that's on Amazon that is super thick and warm. It's also much more affordable than some of the sweaters from Flynn and O'Hara. So anything navy blue that is zip up without a hood or button up without a hood, please make sure they have that. Also, a filled water bottle, a reusable water bottle. So we're going to be limiting scholars' access to water fountains. Want to be clear, we're not limiting their access to water. they will have time to fill up their water bottles, but we want to avoid students leaning down and putting their mouths near the water fountains. And so we're asking that all scholars come with a water bottle that they can refill throughout the day, and that they're coming with it filled from the start of the day. And then in terms of following safety expectations and protocols, in addition to the mask, it's really important that students are maintaining social distancing when we are in the classroom and in the hallways. We'll talk more about what we're going to put in place to support that, but please be having those conversations with your scholars about how important it is going to be that we are all taking precautions and keeping our community safe. We're also going to talk a lot about washing hands when students are back in school. There will be designated hand washing breaks built into the day. And so it's really, really important that we're reinforcing at home that students are washing their hands with soap for 20 seconds, sing the happy birthday song in your head. That makes sure that you've got enough time to scrub all the germs.
Jet,
Yep.
before we move on, there's kind of a bunch of similar questions in the chat. If students have not already picked up a Girls Prep Chromebook and their daughters are coming in for in-person learning, will they be able to get a Chromebook from the building, or are they expected to bring their personal devices?
We will absolutely make sure that they can get a Chromebook from the building. So tech pickup right now is happening every Monday at Boys Prep in the Bronx from 4 to 6 p.m. So if you live in the Bronx, you can go to Boys Prep and pick up a Chromebook. If you are closer to Lower East Side, what I'd say is to just let your point of contact know that you're gonna need to get a Girls Prep device, and we will make sure that is here, ready, and available for you for scholars to either pick up before the first day of hybrid learning or to receive on their day of orientation. So please do not send them with a personal device to school. Lots of just connectivity and Wi-Fi issues that could happen. Let's make sure it's a public prep device. Thank you, Ms. Walker. And if anything else is coming up, great team leaders, feel free to just jump in and interrupt, and I can answer as we go. So wanted to share some updates on how we have prepared our building for the return of scholars. So these are some photos from our actual classrooms. One thing that you will see in the first picture is that we have socially distanced desks in each classroom for our pods. You'll note that there's blue tape on the floor that outlines the personal space for that scholar and ensures that we are keeping the appropriate amount of distance between scholars in the classroom. So that's already mapped out and ready to go. In the middle picture, you'll see, it's a little, I guess, because it's very clear, difficult to see, but there is a plastic plexi sneeze guard that each scholar will be issued her own sneeze guard that Velcros to her desk so that she can take a mask break, and so that when we are eating lunch in our classrooms, we've got an added layer of barrier when those masks are off and we are in the classroom space. And then we've done a lot of work on ventilation in our building. So the exhaust system has been completely overhauled, and we have been given a clean bill of ventilation by all of the inspectors. You will see in the photo, we've installed fans in every classroom, at least 2 in the windows. Those serve as exhaust and intake fans. So they make sure that there's fresh air moving in and that they are pulling air out of the classroom. And so those have been installed, all of these in every classroom space in our building. Whoops, I don't know what in the world I did there, but we're gonna try to get that to go away. Okay, there we go. Visible reminders. So we've invested in a lot of public prep branding around our core values with visible reminders of expectations related to COVID safety. So reminders to demonstrate responsibility by wearing their mask, demonstrating scholarship at home, to stay sick if they are home. There are PPE stations in classrooms and hallways. So every classroom has been outfitted with this operation station. And then again, every common work area and in various spaces and entryways in the building, you'll see PPE stations that include sanitizer, masks, disinfectant, gloves, all of the things, so that those are at the ready. What's not visible here is that there are sanitizing stations that have been installed on the walls all throughout the building that are automatic sanitizer dispensers, because we just want to make sure that everyone has access to what they need to maintain a clean and safe environment. All of our hallways have been lined with tape and 6-foot social distancing markers that you can see in that last photo, as well as with directional arrows. So while students will be remaining in their pods in their classrooms for the majority of the day, they will be going outside for daily recess. We do believe that we want to have students outside as much as possible, weather permitting, and that they need to be able to move and get fresh air. And so when they are moving throughout the hallway, we have directional reminders and social distancing markers to make sure that we can do so safely. That also goes through our stairwells. There are social distancing markers that have been installed on our stairwells. We have also assigned specific stairwells for specific grade levels to limit students' exposure to anyone outside of their grade level. And that's going to apply to adults as well. We're all going to take our assigned stairwells unless we're in the elevator, just to make sure that we're doing everything we can to stay distanced from others. But while we're trying to keep our distance and make sure that health and safety is the top priority, we also want to make sure that our building is joyful and welcoming. We are so excited to welcome scholars back in the building, and our teachers were only in the building for 1 day so far and made a world of difference in the way that our building is already set up to welcome our students. From getting bulletin boards up and ready to this incredible photo display in the 5th grade hallway, to Miss O'Daniel setting up her socially distanced teacher workspace with all the things that represent her and who she is. We are committed to making sure that we're safe, but that we are also true to our Girls Prep spirit and have a joyful and welcoming environment for your scholars. And here they are back for their first day. I cannot shout our staff out enough. Please shout your POC out, send your teachers love and shine. They are working nonstop around the clock, both in the building and out of the building, to make sure that whether students are at home or in school, that they have access to the highest quality instruction and the most joyful environment possible. You can see Mr. Marr smiling behind this mask. If you just look at his eyes, I thought this was the perfect example of how to smile with your eyes. I think he's saying to me in this moment, I'm smiling, can you tell? And Miss George set up in her office wearing her feelings t-shirt, because we know it's all the feelings, but the one we feel right now is excited to welcome you all back. So what to expect when you arrive on campus? So when scholars arrive for their first days of in-person learning, it's going to be pod orientation. So we'll talk in a moment about that exact schedule, but we're only going to bring 2 grade levels back at a time in a phased-in approach, specifically so that we can practice all the routines and the procedures that students are going to need to know in order to navigate the new reopening plans. So when you arrive, you will see that there are socially distanced markers that are going to be spray painted on the sidewalk in front of the building. Our 7th and 8th grade scholars will be arriving and entering through our 11th Street entrance. And our 5th and 6th grade scholars will be arriving through our courtyard entrance. So we are going to spread out arrival so that we can stagger it and have students coming in and maintaining social distance as they go in the building. You are also going to see a screening questionnaire out front. And we are going to ask your scholar, and we are going to ask families that drop scholars off their answer to these questions every single day. You'll also be receiving surveys sent out from Public Prep that ask you to answer these questions weekly so that we can make sure that students are coming in the building that have not been experiencing symptoms. So it's really important to note that if your scholar has a fever of 100 degrees or higher, they are not going to be able to come in the building. So it's going to be really important that you are staying on top of their temperatures at home because we'll be taking their temperatures daily as they are arriving. We'll also be screening staff every day as they arrive. These are also questions that staff are answering every day as they come in the building. So have you experienced any symptoms of COVID-19, which would be fever of 100 degrees or higher, a new cough, loss of taste or smell, or shortness of breath within the past 10 days? In the past 10 days, have you gotten a positive result from a COVID-19 test? To the best of your knowledge, in the past 14 days, have you been in close contact with anyone who tested positive or who's had COVID-19 symptoms? And have you traveled internationally or from a state with widespread community transmission in the past 14 days? If you answer yes to any of these questions, or if your scholar, if you or your scholar have answered yes to any of these questions, we'll have a school leadership team member outside that will ask you to step to the side. They will talk to you a bit further with some additional screening questions to determine whether or not your scholar should be in the building that day or whether or not your scholar should be learning from home. So we will be doing daily screening, both with this questionnaire and taking scholar temperatures with a touchless thermometer as they are entering the building. And so when you arrive, this will be happening every day. If a scholar has a fever or is experiencing any symptoms, we will go in further detail about the protocol, but essentially we will have staff on site to have that student in what we're calling our isolation room on campus, where we will contact you immediately so that you can come and pick up your scholar. It's going to be really important if they're coming in the building that you know that if they have any symptoms or if they have a fever, and I'm not talking allergy symptoms, specific COVID-19 symptoms. If there's evidence of those, they'll be evaluated by our nurse. We will contact you and we will need someone to pick the scholar up from school. They will remain in the isolation area until they are able to be picked up after being evaluated by our school nurse. Again, prevention is key here. We are asking that you reinforce these ideas with scholars at home, washing their hands, wearing their mask, keeping a physical distance, and staying home if they are sick. Avoid touching their face, avoid unnecessary travel, and avoiding crowds. All of the data right now shows that even more than rapid on-site testing, following these preventative measures are the keys to being able to reduce the spread and come back to school safely. So just stamping arrival and dismissal, again, we are going to separate them, 5th and 6th grade, the courtyard, 7th and 8th grade, 11th Street. School staggered arrival begins at 8:30 a.m. for scholars, and staggered dismissal begins at 4:15 p.m. All scholars will be out of the building by 4:25. And so when we say staggered, that just means that we will have students socially distanced outside and we will be bringing them in at a socially distanced rate so that we can make sure that they can get up to advisory while maintaining 6 feet of distance between each other. Really, really important. We cannot, I know a lot of us have relied on early drop off in years past because of all of the things that we need to put in place right now to screen students and staff and maintain safety. We cannot monitor students who are dropped off early. So please know that if your scholar arrives, the expectation is that they will not be supervised early by a girls prep staff member, that they should remain socially distanced where they are waiting, even if that's in front of the building. And similarly, it's really important that if your scholar is not self-dismissed, that they are picked up by 4:25. To ensure that we limit exposure, that we keep our pods as distant as possible from other pods, we cannot be holding scholars late in the building. It's also going to be important that our custodians are able to start the deep cleaning that's going to happen every day. And so it's critical that scholars are picked up on time so that we can do what we need to do to make sure our facility is ready to go every day for students and staff. So getting into the nuts and bolts of the actual phase-in dates and schedules. I would recommend, if you've got your cell phone out, that you take pictures of this if you want to be able to easily reference. This was sent out in the letter that I sent to families last week. It's the breakdown of the phase-in schedule. So phase-in begins the week of October 12th. So October 12th is Indigenous Peoples Day. There is no school. October 13th, as you can see here, all scholars are still virtual. Wednesday, October 14th, all scholars are still virtual and asynchronous. So as we've been doing on Wednesdays to prepare for reopening, Wednesdays have been asynchronous. That will happen Wednesday, October 14th. October 15th, we will begin staggered pod orientation. So if you have a 6th grade or an 8th grade scholar, their first day for pod orientation is going to be Thursday, October 15th. If your scholar is in 5th or 7th grade, they are still virtual that day. October 16th, 5th and 7th graders will have their first day of pod orientation, while our 6th and 8th graders remain at home for virtual learning. We are purposefully staggering orientation and limiting the number of grades on site in these first few days in order to best prepare students for this transition. So again, 6th and 8th grade, your first day of orientation is going to be Thursday, October 15th. 5th and 7th will be on site Friday, October 16th. That's our first week of the phased-in approach. Week 2 of our phased-in approach here. It's the week of, this should not say September 19th. That is very confusing because we are not in the month of September anymore. So let me go ahead and fix that for you because clearly I'm a month behind. The week of October 19th, we are going to have 2 more days of pod orientation that are staggered. 6th and 8th graders are back October 19th. 5th and 7th graders are back October 20th. So again, there's going to be 2 days of pod orientation for each grade level, but they are staggered. They are not all happening on the same day. They are, however, full days. So it's 8:30 to 4:25. Wednesday, October 21st, all scholars are virtual because remember, Wednesdays are going to remain virtual, even in phase 2. Thursday, October 22nd will be our first day with all 4 grade levels of in-person learning happening at the same time in the building. So October 22nd and 23rd, all students who have opted into in-person learning will be on site for full days. And then the week of October 26th, that's when our 4-day in-person learning weeks begin. So October 26th and on, if your scholar is opted in to hybrid learning for this first learning choice, they are on site Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 8:30 to 4:25, and Wednesdays, they are learning at home remotely. Wednesdays will be synchronous once we start our full hybrid plan in phase 2. So again, Wednesdays are asynchronous up until October 21st. And then October 21st and on, scholars will all be at home, but it will shift back to synchronous instruction with a focus on small groups and interventions for various groups of scholars. That was a lot, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions in the chat. I know we are right at 6. I want to respect Q&A time. I am happy to stay on. I know other staff members may not be able to, so if you have to log off, that's okay. But I am going to stop screen sharing now so that I can see what's in the chat and make sure that I respond to what we've got there. Great team leaders, if there's anything you can come off and surface, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, Ms. Strong, there's a question about lunch protocols as well as fire drills with social distancing, and then a question about supply pickup when it comes to lockers. They were unable to make it last week, so is there gonna be another time for that?
Awesome. So yes, there is going to be another time, but it's not going to be a full day. It's going to need to be an individual appointment. So just reach out to Ms. Denolis. She's the point person for locker pickup. And if you send her an email, she can let you know the best day and time to do that. In terms of lunch, we will have lunch in our classrooms daily. Students will be able to get a grab and go bagged lunch. They will also be able to bring their own lunch from home if you'd prefer. We will not be in the cafeteria for large lunch or with the hot food option. It will be an individually wrapped grab and go bagged lunch or lunch that students bring from home. And so scholars will eat in their classrooms. We have a hand washing break that is going to happen right before they eat lunch so that they have a chance not just for sanitizer, but hand washing. And then students will have lunch in the classroom. They will then have recess outside. So recess will also be staggered so that we limit students who are out at the same time. So 5th grade, for example, will only have recess with 5th grade pods outside. So there are 2 5th grade pods that will have access to outdoors at the same time. But we will have a system in place where we are balancing who has access to the very coveted monkey bar equipment outside. But we will be giving students recess outdoors every day with a designated place for a mask break. Otherwise, similar to the public parks, we're gonna have students keep their masks on while they're playing, but we'll have space for them to take a mask break. On the way back in from recess, there will be another hand washing protocol before we go back into class for afternoon classes. And then the last thing you asked was fire drills. So we are still going to practice fire drills and safety drills in the building. The way that that is going to happen is we are going to practice those as grade levels so that we can practice them socially distanced. Because when it is a practice round, we need students to know the protocol, but we also want to be able to maintain social distancing. If it is an actual fire, the important part is that students all know the protocol and know how to exit the building swiftly and immediately. And so we will continue to practice those drills, but rather than practicing them full school, we'll be practicing them as grade levels so that we can do so maintaining social distance. And we know that in the event of a real emergency, every grade level knows exactly what to do. because at that point, getting out will be the priority as opposed to doing it in a staggered manner. Same thing will happen for any other drills that we do in terms of lockdown drills. We will practice what the protocol is while maintaining social distance in the classroom, knowing that in the event of an actual emergency, the priority will be the student's physical safety. But while it is practice, we will be doing so in a socially distanced manner.
And Ms. Strong, can you speak to how teachers will manage the virtual students versus the in-person?
Absolutely. So the way that our schedule is designed, the classes for remote and in-person school, students are going to be on the same schedule. So I'm just going to use 5th grade as an example. There are going to be 2 groups of 5th graders that are learning remotely, and there are going to be 2 pods of 5th graders learning in person. The way that the schedule is going to work is going to allow Miss Colgan and Miss Swap, her co-teacher, to rotate who is teaching the in-person pod of fewer than 14 students and who is teaching the remote group of students, which is going to be around 25 students, what like an average or smaller than an average class size. So the teachers are not going to change. So your scholar is not going to get a new math teacher. Mr. Marr is not going to all of a sudden start teaching Algebra 1 Regents. Your scholars are, I know he's disappointed. You're going to have they're going to have the same teachers who are going to be co-planning together, who are going to be rotating so that all scholars still see all teachers. So it is not going to be that your scholar zooms in to the live class where Ms. Colgan is teaching the in-person pod, because we strongly believe that the value of students being in the building is that we want to be able to leverage all of the ways that we can learn and discuss and interact in a way that you can't do in the same manner virtually. We also know that the highest quality remote instruction we can provide has to look a little different. The way we do discussion online has to look different. And so it's really important to us that the same teachers are able to co-plan but are also able to think about how is this going to look different in a remote setting versus an in-person setting, so that we can maximize student engagement in both settings. Ms. Sumter, was that clear enough, or did you have any follow-up questions about how that will work?
No, that's good. Thank you.
There's a question about students who receive like additional services. I'm assuming like OT, PT, and how that's going to factor into the schedule now.
Absolutely. So all students who receive mandated services or related services, whether that's counseling, OT, PT, speech, those will all continue to happen whether your scholar is remote or whether they are in-person learning. If your scholar is in in-person learning, they may have their speech session, however, remotely. So Miss Amanda, our speech pathologist, may not actually be in the building giving your scholar that group speech or their individual speech service, but there is an intervention block built into the schedule for all grade levels. And so during that block, students with mandated services will be receiving those, as well as all students will be receiving small group instruction based on their needs, which is why we're really excited to get the MAP data that we're collecting this week, so we know exactly what students need and can leverage that intervention block, both for mandated services and for just targeted small group instruction, because we strongly believe that leveraging small group instruction is going to be key in both pushing students who are ready to go to the next level and for closing any gaps that may have developed over the course of remote learning. And so we will be leveraging that block. Additionally, Wednesdays is going to primarily focus on small group instruction. So again, it is asynchronous in the weeks leading up to reopening because we're training staff and we want to be prepared. But October 21st and on, Wednesdays are all remote, but it's synchronous and it's going to primarily be all small group instruction. So that's additional sets periods for students who have mandated small groups. They will also, counseling, speech, and OT will also be scheduled during Wednesdays so that students can get sessions there as well.
Hi, I just have a question. I'm seeing in the chat that basically enrichment will take place at the same time as the children have services. For children that need the enrichment classes too, like, why is that block at the same time? It's hard for a child to show up at her services and then try to show up when she needs the enrichment or the extra help from her teacher.
Absolutely, that's a great question. So once we finish this MAP window, we talked about the MAP assessment. In that intervention or that enrichment block, all students are going to be getting some sort of targeted small group instruction. On Wednesdays, there's going to be a balance of like small group instruction and office hours time. So if your scholar gets mandated services and so they're unable to see any other content teacher during that intervention and enrichment block, they will still have Wednesdays where they can go to office hours if they need to see a teacher outside of their mandated services. And additionally, our teachers are really amazing about setting office hours time up with kiddos in mornings, if it's a one-off during advisory time, checking in with kids at lunch or at other times throughout the day. And so if there's a specific concern about a specific class, I'd recommend reaching directly out to that teacher because again, our teachers are incredible in finding ways to work with individuals, families, and scholars.
Okay, I just have one other question. Currently, my daughter receives one of her services outside of the school hours because that was like the only time that she can have the services. So now what happens to that? Because my daughter gets services Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Her only day is Friday that she doesn't get anything. So on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, Wednesday, Thursday, she has speech therapy at 4 o'clock. So now is that going to be automatically built into the 11:30 to 12:15 block? Like, do I need to reach out to the speech therapist to tell her now of this change? Like,
No, not at all. You do not have to reach out at all. Our Assistant Director of Student Support, Ms. Stoller, who's not on the call today, she's working with all our related service providers. So our speech provider knows what our schedule is going to look like when we get to phase 2, and they will be reaching out to you if anything needs to shift with the time. You won't need to reach out and try to find a different time. Ms. Stoller is looking at, for students who get multiple services, looking at the blocks of the day. Some students are getting, for example, their speech services are pushed in as opposed to pull out. And so the short version is you don't need to worry about doing the rescheduling. If anything has to shift with the time, Miss Amanda and Miss Stoller will reach out and will make sure that students are able to get all mandated services within the school day. It will not be on you to figure out those puzzle pieces because we know there's a lot of them.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Ms. Strong, there's also a question here about immunizations. A scholar who's set for hybrid will not be able to get in until October 26th. So are they unable to start school on the 12th?
That is a great question. So I want this, whoever this family is, to reach out to me directly so that we can have a one-on-one conversation. We are asking that immunizations are taken care of and all physical forms are submitted so that we can make sure kids are healthy and ready to be back in the building as a safety precaution. But I'd love to talk to you just one-on-one so I can understand a little more and see if there's anything we can do to support. And then we can come up with a plan that makes the most sense. But generally, we are asking for immunizations and physicals to be completed prior to the first day that they come in the building.
Hello, everyone. This is Aisha Reed, Dakota's mom. I have a question in regards to when a teacher is unable to attend the Zoom class. There was a bit of a confusion this week for science. When Mr. Patel.
Ms. Reeves, you're a little, I don't know if your mic is cut. Yeah, can you say that? Can
Okay.
you say it again?
You can hear me now?
Yep, all good.
Okay. There was some confusion with science class this past week. I believe Mr. Patel called out. He had some emergency, but Dakota was trying to figure out how she could attend the class or where she had to go, or like, could there be some sort of notification sent out to the students when the teacher will not be available for a Zoom class? And I have one other question after you answer that.
Yeah, no problem. You're absolutely right, and I appreciate you surfacing it. This is something we talked about as a staff this week. And so moving forward, two things should happen if a staff member is going to be out. One, your scholars will all receive an email before the start of the day that says, I'm going to be out, and either if they're in a co-taught class, they go to class as normal and the co-teacher is teaching the class. If it is an async sub lesson, so if it's like, I'm gonna be out and I'm posting your science lesson, that will be very explicit in the email. What they will also then see is that same message and whatever the assignments are for the day posted in Google Classroom. And so you're totally right that we had a mix up in communication. And so we took a step back and really ironed out the protocol so that we don't ever have a situation where students are waiting to get in a Zoom class and demonstrating that scholarship and responsibility that we want to see, and then being like, I don't know what's going on, please help. So yeah, we want to own that and say that we've got that ironed out. You'll be receiving an email and a post in Google Classroom. I'd love your feedback, families, even if you want to drop it in the chat. Would you prefer the families also be added on that email so you are in the loop? We are happy to do that. I see Ms. Reeves shaking her head yes. If you would also appreciate that, this would be a great way to just get feedback. Seeing yeses come up in the chat. Great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and amend that. Ms. Colgan and Mr. Marr, if you could just take note, we'll put that in the weekly update for staff. But families know that that's going to your scholar as well. So if you're at work, they got the email too, and it's in Google Classroom, so you don't have to stop what you're doing to call them and tell them, but we will put you on the email so that you also know in case they call you and are confused.
Okay, secondly, this is an 8th grade question about high school. I tried to set up Dakota's high school account online, but there's a code that she needs to receive from the school to continue on with that setup. When would that be sent out?
Yep, if you shoot Ms. McCullough a quick email, she can definitely get you the information that you need. She has all of that, and she would typically be here, but she was at a high school meeting. But just shoot her an email and she can get you that information.
Yes, I did shoot her an email. She was stating something that the DOE has not fully open, so not all of the 8th graders were entered into the system to have the code created. So I thought maybe you would have a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, that is the case, that there has been a delay as the DOE has started their phased-in reopening. The portals for high school applications and the process has been delayed, and there were some systematic issues just in a delay in the process. So as of today, I don't believe that's fully resolved, but the last notification I got was that they were working to have it resolved. So hopefully by mid next week, they've got things fixed on their end. But it's not like, just to be clear, that it impacts all students. So our kids are not missing out on something that somebody else already has. It's like an issue in the system writ large that is a result of a delay in their process.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. And families, if you put a question in the chat that we didn't surface, if you just want to come off mute, I'm happy to address it.
I have one last question. Has a date been set yet for all scholars to return? Because I see that there was a phase 3 on the slide.
I wish it will be the happiest day of my life, and I can promise you we will have the most joyful first floor welcome back Soul Train line coming in this building, socially distanced 6 feet apart the moment that we can. But no, unfortunately, we've not gotten any guidance yet on when phase 3, when we'll be able to start phase 3. But you will be the first to know, and I will do a happy dance, probably on camera, and you will make fun of me and it will be okay, but I will be that excited. Any other questions? It could be about reopening or not. I see one just popped up in the chat. Can I have the email to the person I need to send? Yes. Miss Colgan, do you mind putting Miss Trez's email in the chat? Miss Trez is the person that you'd send those physical forms to. So Miss Colgan will drop that in the chat.
I have one other question. This is in regards to grading. I noticed some teachers are using Google Classroom as their grading, and some people are updating PowerSchool. Which one should we be looking at?
You know, when I plan my chat and choose, I should just call you so that you can help me set the agenda, because that is a really important reminder too. Thank you, Ms. Reeves. PowerSchool is going to be it is our primary student information system, and it is going to be our final grade book. What we're working on right now, and we're hopeful that we'll have resolved by mid next week, is having everything set up there so that grades can be transferred from Google Classroom into PowerSchool, because all of our official grading scale and our weightings and everything are set in PowerSchool. And so right now what you'll see in Google Classroom is every assignment that's been posted, even if it was just a classwork or a discussion assignment that isn't necessarily counting, weighing heavily on their grade. So what you'll see in PowerSchool, and we will have PowerSchool Parent Portal. We are aiming to have that live by the end of next week, because we should have the system set up and ready to go. Prior to that, you'll receive a letter, a Parent Portal letter. If you're a returning family member, it's the same type of letter you've gotten in the past to give you access to PowerSchool. If you're new, we will make sure that you get that letter so that you can access grades on PowerSchool. You'll see at minimum 2 grades entered every week. The one thing you will see a shift in is that instead of having a classwork and a homework category, you're gonna see coursework. We made that shift purposefully because in remote and hybrid, we're not assigning as much specific homework outside of their independent reading or outside of finishing classwork. And so we want to make sure that their grade book stays balanced. So you're going to see a coursework category, which would be anything that was classwork and homework. You're going to see a participation category, which is worth 10% of their overall grade. Coursework is worth 50% of their overall grade. And then you will see assessments, which is worth 40%. That could be anything from a daily exit ticket to a unit assessment that students take. So PowerSchool is going to be where you need to look to see what your scholar's final grade is. Right now, utilize Google Classroom to be why is this assignment missing, right? And have those conversations. And your POC should be updating you on your weekly touch points of if anything's missing. But Power School is going to be where you need to look to say, what is my scholar's grade? Because that's where it's going to be weighted, and that's where you're going to see the assignments teachers have chosen that are the most critical to demonstrate student performance. So thank you for that, Ms. Reeves, because I should have put it in my PowerPoint.
Thank you. And I would like to say I absolutely love Google Classroom because I can see every assignment when she completed it, when she turned it in, the date, the time, and everything. So I absolutely love that feature. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm glad. We're going to keep using Google Classroom even through hybrid. So if your student is coming for in-person learning, we're still going to be utilizing that platform. So families will still have access to see the work and utilize all of those features in person or in remote. All right, families. Well, with that, unless Mr. Marr or Ms. Colgan, did you see anything else in the chat that we didn't get to that you want to surface? Seeing some no's. All right, families. So from here, next week we meet again on Wednesday. We're back to our regular time. We had to shift it this week because of the public prep town hall. Next week, we're back to Wednesdays at 5. We will be sharing more information about reopening. We will be sending out some letters for those of you coming in person, letting you know specifically what the schedule is going to look like. Again, it's going to be very, very similar to, it's actually going to be exactly the same as the order of their classes in remote learning. But we'll be sending that out to you, and we'll be meeting next week on Wednesday to talk more about reopening and student support services. So thank you for coming tonight. It is really one of my favorite times of the week to get to see all of you. I appreciate your time. I know it's limited, and I appreciate you trusting us with your babies. We know that they are the most important people, and we are very lucky to be a part of their journey. So thank you for being our partners in the work. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great weekend, everyone. Happy Friday. We made it. Woo!